everybody and welcome to my channel. This is Leslie and thank you so much for joining me today. I am sharing a layout with you that I'm doing for the Paper Issues Design Team, and my challenge is called Gridlock. So basically anything to do with a grid or anything like that. So what I decided to do is I decided to pull out my Oh My Heart collection from Pink Paisley, and there is this beautiful sheet. Now this comes from my 12 by 12 paper pad, and it's got all those little squares, and I'm going to cut all those little squares up and build sort of like a grid pattern on my layout. Now I've got 4 little photos that I want to use on my layout, and I'm just going to try and arrange them however I see fit over there. Now first I wanted like 3 rows with or 3 columns with 4 rows, if you know what I mean. But then I decided to have 4 columns with 4 rows. So that's where you'll see now that I'm just adding that extra column, you know, so that I could have all like one photo in each row. And as I'm going to be sticking everything down, you'll see that I'm starting with the corners first. So I'm bringing in the square an inch into the paper on both sides. So on its left hand side and from the bottom of that square, it's an inch. So this whole grid would have like an inch border all around it of white cardstock, if you get my drift. So I'm first just going to be sticking down the corners, and that makes it easier for me to sort of position all the inside blocks. It's almost like you're building a puzzle. You know, you always start with the with a frame. So and this makes it a lot easier to, in the end, just position all those little blocks on the inside of that square. Now they aren't stuck down perfectly in, I mean, like to the millimeter perfectly, but that doesn't matter because I'm doing a very rough sort of zigzag stitch. I'm going to be hand stitching, and I'm going to use my white embroidery thread, and I will use all 6 strands, and there you get a very nice headshot of my hair, my fuzzy hair. So you'll see how I sort of poke the holes. The first bunch of holes I poked down the first row was 1 centimeter apart, and now I am sort of poking the holes. How do I explain this? 1/2 centimeter from the top, and then I carry on with centimeter intervals. So I'm not sure if that makes any sense. I'm not sure how to explain it, but you'll see how I'm going to do it. It's like a zigzag pattern, so it's easily, you know, once you see what I'm doing, you're gonna be like, oh right, is that what she's trying to say? So I lost my big sewing needle, and I have this little thing that I'm going to be sewing with, and it is all 6 strands, so it is a bit tedious to get it through the bits of paper, but I do get it through in the end. And this sewing expedition of mine took about an hour to an hour and a half to get everything done. I first only wanted to do the you know, the inside of the grid, and then once I finished that, I sort of, you know, it felt like I needed to do the outside as well. So you'll see all that in a little bit, and here you see the zigzag taking place. And really it is a messy zigzag. I didn't measure how long each stitch is, I just eyeballed it. What I did measure was the gap between, you know, the little holes that I poked, the gaps. Those I measured, but the rest of it is just basically eyeballing it. So you'll see as well at the end of the layout what the back side of my layout looks like, and it looks quite, it's got a nice pattern in the end. So but anyway, so there you see, and there everything is stitched. It looks, see that pattern, I really liked it. Anyway, it looks very quilty as well, and I really like that effect that it gives in the end. Now these little photos, my cousin came to visit, and she took wonderful, beautiful photos of us, of my little family. And these are sort of, we both had this idea of everybody lying in a circle formation, like in a star, and then we look up and they take these beautiful photos of us, you know, like on Instagram, and everybody's thin and doesn't have any like chin rolls and double necks, and you know, the sky is not so bright, and none of us are squinting, and you know, yeah, that didn't happen. Reality kicked in and we were all squinting. The kids hated it. They were all moaning, and man, it was a mess. So we just decided, no, okay, well, that's not going to work. And but these are the photos that came from that little from that little expedition of us taking the photos there on the grass. And I think some of them are quite cute. I mean, I like the ones of Emma where she's sort of pulling her face and got her hand over her face and so on, trying to block out the blue sky. But anyway, those the wood veneers that I'm using are from my stash. I have a suspicion where they're from, but I don't want to say where I think they're from because I might be wrong, and then I might be offending some or other manufacturer gravely, so I'm just going to keep quiet about it. So I have had them for quite a number of months, if not over a year already in my stash, and I needed to use them, so I thought this was perfect. And I really like that little sunglass, the sunglasses from the puffy sticker sheet, just because it's just ironic that all my kids are squinting because they're looking in, like, basically into the sun. And yeah, so my title is going to be Beautiful Love, and it's not a very explanatory title. I really just like that little tab sticker that says beautiful, and it nestled in quite nicely, you know, in the word love that I placed over there. Now, this layout doesn't have a lot of embellishing on it, and I decided not to embellish a lot because of the amount of pattern paper and all the patterns, the colors, and it's very busy already. So I do minimal embellishing on this. And those flowers, the yellow and the pink flower and that orange flower, it's from the one of the pattern papers from the Oh My Heart collection that I just fussy cut out. And I'm just going to be sticking them there. And that is basically the embellishing on this layout. I don't do much more because of the amount of stitching that adds a lot of texture. See, I'm even taking that orange flower away. It's just too much. So I do pop up the petals on some little foam squares, and I do adhere the inside of the flowers with some wet glue so that they stick flat to the surface, and so the petals will pop up really nicely, create some dimension as well. Also just some interest, you know, to draw your attention a bit to the flowers. I also pop up the photos on some little foam squares so that they also have their little spot in the limelight amongst all this pattern. So I like the fact that my kids are wearing black in the photos, and there are some subtle pops of black in this collection. So that really, you know, I really like that fact. I wanted to use that little chipboard piece with the little heart, that tab type thing, but it just did not fit. I think because it was so rectangular, and this is such a square layout. Everything is square on this layout. So those little chipboard flowers, I'm just going to be sticking, they're like these little rose gold or gold flowers. I'm just going to be sticking them in the centers of the flowers that I've got on the layout already, and that's basically just to add some interest and some shine on my layout. And then in the end, I take my brush ink pen and I very gingerly but messily brush a doodly border around my layout, and that sort of echoes the black that's in the collection, also the black that my kids are wearing, that they're all wearing a black shirt. And that took me a while, so I did edit out a lot of it. And you see how that brings out the black in the collection, and it really brings the layout together. And I really, really like this layout. I think it turned out fabulous. The other thing is it took me, I think, like 40 minutes to do, and that is a miracle because layouts usually take me days. No, it didn't take me 40 minutes. The stitching took me an hour and a half, and the rest took me 40 minutes. So, but it's still quicker. Anyway, head on over to Paper Issues, take part in their challenges, and yes, that's it. Bye.